Let me start off by asking you all a very simple question. Over this past week, how many of you have procrastinated? Okay, a fair few of us, right? Today, I'm going to show you that these drawbacks can easily be avoided. And through a simple change in attitude and perspective, you can make better life decisions. As a child, my mother told me not to play with sharp objects. So I became a fencer. I've been a fencer for almost 10 years now, and I've been a part of the national team for about 4 years straight. And something that a lot of people don't realize in fencing is that the smallest mistake, a pitiful loss in concentration, will often lead to a loss. And I've seen that every time I lose, I like to make excuses for my failures. And I think I say this for anyone involved in athletics, that they hate to lose. In fact, that's probably one of the worst things about being involved in a competitive sport. I remember one time specifically, during one of my training sessions with my coach, everyone had left the gym. It was just the two of us. And ironically, that was one of the first things he taught me. To be the first ones to come in and the last ones to leave. Because that was one of the many ways in which we proved to ourselves that we were the ones that worked the hardest that day. We were working on defending and retreating, and in this type of situation, as a defender, I have two options. I can either wait until the distance is just right, parry my opponent's blade, and get what is called the right of way, and then finish at my opponent's target area. Or I can wait until the distance is too narrow, and in this situation, my opponent has made a mistake. And now, I can maneuver my body in such a way that his blade misses my body and I simply touch his. Now, when we first started this, I was absolutely terrible. Not only could I keep up with his speed, but also, and even worse, I kept showing him where he could hit me, making his offense even stronger. Once my coach had seen enough, he took off his mask, came up to me, and said, "What's wrong? Is something bothering you? Is something on your mind?" And I looked at him and I said, "No, coach, nothing's bothering me. It's just that you're being way too harsh on me. None of the opponents that I have to face against are as fast, strong, or have the fencing." Stared at me for exactly 6 seconds and said, "Shut up. Stop making excuses and do as I say." Why don't I come back and finish this story later? But don't worry, I promise I'll come back to it. Last year in psychology class, we discussed a very famous psychological phenomenon known as the self-serving bias. And this theory has two parts to it. The first one is that when good things happen to us, we tend to attribute them to our personal factors. So, stepping away from fencing, let me talk about something that we can all relate to, which is testing. We've all taken some form of test here, right? Now, imagine a situation where you've prepared for a test. You're ready, you know the material. You come in the next day, you take the test, and you see that you've passed your exam and you've gotten a good grade. Now, in this situation, most of us will think to ourselves, you know what, I did a good job. I studied and I got what I deserved. And we do this consciously. This is something that goes through our minds and we're aware of this. However, this theory also states that when bad things happen to us, we tend to attribute them to external factors, even though in reality, they might just be our own fault. So, going off of the same example, you're prepared for a test, you study, you come and you take it the next day, but this time you see that you've completely failed and you've gotten all the wrong answers. At the end of this experience, how many of you would either A, blame the teacher for being in a bad mood, B, the type of pencil you were using, or C, you were up all night watching the Fenerbahce-Beşiktaş game? Now, psychologists say that this is only natural, and we do this to protect our self-esteem and keep us self-content. Otherwise, could you imagine a world where every time you made a mistake, you kept blaming yourself? Self-confidence would no longer be a trait. Which is why, when I noticed this, I stopped explaining away my mistakes and rather embraced them to make myself a better athlete. Coming back to my story, once my coach had screamed at me, I was absolutely furious. I was pissed at the fact that my reason wasn't good enough for him. So I put my mask back on, took my guard, and I turned all that fury and rage into pure concentration. And instead of focusing on all the reasons why he was better than me, I started focusing on my own actions and how I could improve myself. And suddenly, the entire dynamic had changed. Not only could I keep up with his intense speed now, but also, and more importantly, I could follow the patterns with his blade. Thereby, I could predict the next move he was going to make, making my defense that much stronger. I could see that I was being controlled by the self-serving bias, when I was making up excuses when really it was all just in my head. Later, I could see that this does not only apply to fencing, but also life in general. In our time today, we tend to overcomplicate things, when really, it's as simple as that. If you want something done, you will go and get it done. You will stop making excuses and seek results. So, the next time you think about getting into that dream college or dream job, you will understand and analyze the reasons why you're not qualified, and you will make an effort to fix them. Or the next time you think about asking out that girl you have a crush on, instead of making up excuses like waiting for the right moment, you'll go out there and you'll find that moment. You will chase that moment because, trust me, it's not chasing you anytime soon. By falling prey to the self-serving bias, you are hurting yourself more than you are protecting. By owning up to your mistakes, you are proving to yourself that something is wrong, and you will make an effort to fix it. And the next time an opportunity presents itself, you will make the right decision because you've made yourself a better student, athlete, and person. Thank you.